I had the opportunity to come here to BYU-Idaho, kind of at the early stages of Island 3. So I had a lot of time in Island 3. I taught in Blackboard, I taught in Brain Honey, wrote classes for those LMSs before I came here. So I was pretty familiar with them, and it was really kind of nice timing. I was coming into the new stuff, and I just could get to know it really well. But really early on, I heard not such great things about Island 3. Has anybody heard concerning things about Island 3? Anybody worried about this? Yeah. So let me tell you the first thing, and I hope the thing that you kind of heard today, and just this point I know I can speak for everyone here, is we're listening. We want to make this really the best experience. 6 months ago, everyone was kind of the, oh, here's my kids. Everyone was of the mindset that the hill, the mountain that we had to get through was transition. How many of you still feel like that? Like the hardest thing is going to be transitioning into Island 3, and then after that we'll be good. You guys feeling like that? I'm gonna shift your paradigm a little bit. Hopefully. Oh, maybe it's not here. Huh. Let me find it. Well, it was here this morning. When Elder Clark came, and you guys kind of heard a lot of references to that, I think, but when he came and shared with us what our real calling is here, what our real mandate is, I figured out really quickly this transition is a training hill. It's not the mountain that we're going to climb. We have a big mandate, and it's an amazing work, but we really need to get our classes in good shape, right? You guys feel that, I think, personally in your moment, in your class, in front of your students, right? You want to get it working well for you, but we also need to get the whole system working really well. We're working on building 100 classes with LDS Business College on top of our portfolio and on top of the scaling. I mean, I think you guys can sit in these meetings and just get a little taste of the scaling that we're looking at, right? So we've got to get this just absolutely crystal clear. So we know, first of all, that you know, and not us, that you guys are the boots on the ground, and that the best information comes from you guys. There's nothing, I love nothing more than when I talk to a course lead and we're working on fixing a class, some issues going on in it, and they say these magic words. The OCR really knows what's going on. Yay! You mean I can talk to them? Because every once in a while, it's like hard to get to that point. But most of the time, it's not hard. You guys do know what's going on. The instructors know. You guys are on the ground. So we, with that, I'm going to just talk about some of the problems that we've found, some of the things that we've built and are flashed in the works, and then I'd love to answer questions about that. And some of you were in my last presentation, so I'll go through some of this a little bit quickly. But one of the sticking points, the big sticking points, was due dates. Just getting those figured out, getting them the information to the students. The fact that they don't scale so that it's not midnight local time, that's very confusing. It's confusing to instructors, it's confusing to students. And so here's just a little quick snapshot. If it's 11 p.m. Saturday night, and the reason we use that is, I'm sure you guys are all aware, at 11 p.m. many Saturday nights, there's an update that runs. So how many emails do you get between 11 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. on Saturday night that says, I can't get an attorney thing in, right? So that right there, you know what? Talk to your course lead. Is there a reason that you need midnight? Because probably not. Probably you need 11. It's not scaling anyway, right? It's 4:30 p.m. in Sunday in Australia anyway. So, hey, can we move that to 11 o'clock so that every time the update runs, you're not getting 100 emails? That's simple. That takes seconds to fix. and it will make a big difference for you. So things like that, we're really asking and trying to help you understand too, right? That's good information. Hey, well, we could change that. It would be quite easy. There is no due soon list for those of you that aren't in it yet. That's a sticking point that a lot of students get really frustrated with. When you can't check it on the calendar and it falls off. That doesn't exist. Another fun point is the calendar. There's 6 different types of dates. 6 different, not one due date that just shows up and does different things, but 6 different types of dates. So getting the right ones on there, that's important. So we built some things to address that, and one of them is this page, and it's called How to Understand Due Dates. In the literature, in the curriculum, we can't say Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday anymore. So you're going to see due date 1, due date 2, due date 3, or midweek, end of week, if you had like a Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday setup, okay? And you're going to need to point the students to this. It's going to be there, but they've got to read it to understand it, and it will match their class. This class, of course, had the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday setup. So that will match the class. They do have to update their settings. If they have not updated their settings to tell them what time zone it's in, then it will show them the due date here in Rexburg, Idaho, which is incredibly not helpful, right, in Germany. That's not going to tell them when it's due. It's not even useful like a state away, right? I mean, very quickly, they'll get frustrated and they'll miss deadlines and they can't figure out why. So this tutorial is one there of many that I'll show you. But this link right here, how do I set up my time zone? They have built a myriad of tutorials, and it is beautiful. They're searchable. You send them the link, and when the tutorial gets updated because something changed in the system, the tutorial gets updated and the link sends them to the right one. So old information isn't floating around, right? You're not trying to do it and missing a step that got updated somewhere. You don't need to do this step anymore. So that's in here. The next thing that we built, and by the way, if it's not in your class, you can request it to be put in there. Yeah.
Will there continue to be the Monday 8 o'clock a.m.?
Oh, that's such a great question. No. 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 Everyone hates it. Student hates it. You know, it was right. It was crazy. And why do I have an AM deadline when everything else is night? None of this makes sense. So it's gone.
Yay.
Yeah.
Fall semester.
Fall. Okay. That may be something you need to request to take out of your classes. If you have a class that's still running in it, you'll need to chat with your OCR course lead. I did a lot of transitions via YM, but that was definitely one thing that they. But we had one class that kept it. They found that that was just better for some of the projects they did. So there was one class that kept it, but most of them you just need to.
So is it already done for some classes? We can do this now.
Yeah. So you just need to get in, and it's not. Yeah. The rule is gone, and so you just can request the change.
Work with your course lead on that.
Yeah.
Sure,
everybody, all of your requests as far as like something that's not just a broken link kind of stuff, all needs to go through your OCR so that they take it to your course lead. Yeah.
There's a reason that we can't do away with AM and PM and go with the 24-hour clock. Most of Europe is on 24-hour clock.
They can actually choose that. When they choose their time zone, they can pick if they want a 24-hour time clock. I personally struggle with them. So, and you know, I'm a math person, and I still going, wait, how many hours? With that being said, that page explains it, but this is what it will look like on their content page. Instead of saying due Tuesday, it will say due end of week, due by due day 1. Whatever that is on that content page. But notice it doesn't have a date right there. When they're in there, what we call content view, or kind of the lesson view where all those things are set out, right underneath this, if they've set their time zone, is scaled to their local times. So I would need to turn it in June 25th by 9 p.m., but you might not need to turn it in until 1 in the morning, June 26th. So those dates are right. So you'll see sometimes it will say see calendar. That's just referring to look at the dates that are live in that class. The live dates are correct if they've got their time zone sets correctly. The next page that we built, and again, this is something that many, well, I would say the majority of the transitions don't have in them. So it's something that you can request is this next level up. Well, okay, so I figured out when that one paper was due, but now I need a next idea, right? How about my whole class? I need to kind of plan what's going on. A weekly pattern is just that stuff that happens every week, right? Every week they have a reading, every week they take a quiz, every Friday they have a paper due, whatever it is. It's set up there. Then you'll have major projects and due dates there, or sorry, exams, things like that that would be out of the norm in the next section there. And this is the thing that I love the most about this is the expectations for those things. How many of you have had people in your class spend 2.5 hours on what should have been a 20-minute assignment? Does it happen? It happens all the time, and you're going, no, I only want to hear this much, right? So this this expectation, we can say, look, this should only be maybe a 30-minute assignment. This is what you should be doing in it, right? And then we can do that not only for the weekly assignments, but for the big ones. We can send them out to.
So is this weekly pattern going to automatically show up in our course, or do we need to ask them?
You're going to need to ask for it. Let me back up one step. We have a cleanup effort going in some of those early classes. Some of the things like those short names got brought over for your grade book, and that was really frustrating because like LO 3.02 meant nothing, right? And so those are cleanups that we're working on. This may end up in some of the classes, but you need to look in either your welcome folder or your intro lesson and see if they're there. And if they're not, they're easy to put in.
If I'm in pilot, should I be asking the instructions?
Yes, if you're in pilot now or you're in pilot next semester, you should have that one-to-one, right? You have that designer that you're working with, get it in there now. And maybe let me add one thought to that. We used to look at about 300 classes, right? That's where we would fix about 300 classes because a pathway fix would come in, it would fix it, and it would talk to all of its children, right? And it would fix that thing. Now, if something comes in and we fix it, as the parent, it doesn't talk. So now, instead of one place to fix it, I have one plus maybe 60 sections to fix it in. So here are hearts on this. Please send us fixes. Let's get them fixed, and let's not perpetuate them, right?
When those 60 sections get fixed, do those 60 sections move on to the next semesters?
No.
So every single semester?
What does move on is the reference, right? And that's why it's really important, because sometimes what will happen is, and I had this happen in one of my transitions, all of the instructors talked and they fixed things in all of their sections, but it didn't get put in the reference. They weren't turning it in, right? What was in front of them looked good, but the reference didn't look good. So then it perpetuated. The next semester, all those messes, and I'm telling you, I get 3 to 5 emails from her a week. Thank goodness. Thank goodness that I'm now getting into the reference section, right? I mean, there are things like quiz questions that are wrong. Who's going to even see that? Half the time you won't know, right? Those things need to be fixed. They need to be fixed in the right place. So it's really important that your communication is correct and good. So number one, if you're an instructor, send it to your OCR. Number two, if you have a missing in action OCR, you don't know how to find them, there's directories on the online community site that will send you to get them or to get another person to talk to. So you can say, hey, actually, one of the things we found was people didn't know who their OCRs were. That's really concerning to us, because that's where it should be going, right? If we have 50 sections, we can't handle 50 emails. It needs to go to the OCR, and the OCR needs to send one email, right? So that there's not a line of 50, and we're trying to pick out of 50 what we're supposed to do.
I'm the pilot and the OCR. All of the changes I'm getting are being made to a master, so everything
Right.
will ripple on down. Is this something you recommend for every course? Because we don't have this at the moment.
Right. No, I would recommend it for every course. This one and the understanding due dates paid. Let's see.
I don't think either of those are in my course.
And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to talk about it today, because they're not there in most courses. They're fairly new. They were changed to the template, which means they'll go into new classes. But back, they're not there generally. So this how to understand due dates page, and then this weekly patterns and expectations page. Those two I feel like are a must. Students really need that information, right? They need to know, how do I understand the due dates? What does this midweek mean? Yeah.
As we talk with our course lead, many times they don't understand. Who do we?
Okay,
who does the
great.
course lead
Thank you,
request?
Katie. So there is a vast difference between a fix. There's a broken link in here, right? And oh, I just lost the word. An improvement. Thank you. A redesign is what's in my head, but that you don't want that. And an improvement. Okay. So when you, as an OCR, turning in a ticket, you need to flag it as an improvement. But your course lead, this is where you're going to get in a short line. So Steve Willis is who your course lead talks to. Steve Willis is who they'll email, and they can say to him, look, this is what we're looking at. And we have everything from, boy, the short names in this grade book are a mess. And my students don't know what they mean. Frankly, I don't know what they mean. I had an instructor that printed them all out and then had to write a key for herself. What? No, let's fix this. But I think sometimes people just don't know. They're thinking that's just the new system. It's just Island 3. No. It was just a conversion. Things got numbered and that's how they got put in. But that's just a conversion issue. Ask us if you don't know. If you have a pain point, ask us. Send it in. And maybe the course leads don't know, frankly, yet. I don't know. This is a pain point, but I don't know if it's something we can fix. Send it in. Yeah.
Now, this semester is new to me as an OCR.
Yeah.
We're in iLearn 3 in this class. Now, we're finding that in the conversion from iLearn 2 to 3, there was just a myriad of little bitty stinking things where maybe a reference chapter 8, well, it should have been chapter 9, and things of that nature, editorial. Now, what do we do with those? Do we need to go back and pick all those up from this semester and send those in?
So you shouldn't, if you're in pilot right now, you should be working with a designer. Do you have a designer that you're emailing and they're fixing?
This class has already been going under iLearn 2, and they converted it to iLearn 3. This is the first semester in iLearn 3.
Okay.
And then we're finding a lot of these little.
So do you have a designer that you're working with?
I'm not personally, the league has been working with it.
Okay, that's where they need to go. They need to go to your designer. There's normally one line, right? There's one line and it goes through course improvement. You turn in that ticket and you say, here's an improvement that needs to be made, that we just got this pain point and it's not just a broken link, right? We've got this pain point and we need some designer time to sit down. And frankly, sometimes, honestly, we don't know how to, you don't know how to fix it, right? But I know that every time I get to Unit 3, I kind of want to gnaw my leg off because there's this ridiculous thing, right, that I'm dealing with. You know that, say, boy, this is a pain. And there's 1,000 reasons, from conversion to just it was done in the classroom that way to we just don't know it's a pain point. It hasn't been turned in. And we can sit down and work through it. We get a hold of that course lead, and the course lead and the designer and the OCR can sit down and say, okay, what are we really looking for here? What's the pain point? Sometimes it's just an outside technology that was in place that frankly doesn't need to be used anymore. Sometimes it's a super easy fix. Like the grade book, that is an easy fix. Frankly, that would just save hours and hours on your end, right? It does take a little bit of time on our end, but frankly, it's a little bit of time and just absolutely worth turning in. So that's the normal line. When you have a pilot, or when you've transferred from iLearn 2, your first semester in iLearn 3, and I was talking, we've got several people here that their OCR and the instructors will be all together in their first iLearn 3 this next semester. So they're going to have an OCR in 2 or 3 sections. We did make sure that they were smaller, so there's not like 50 sections, right? It's not Pathway that's doing that, or Math 108 or something that has really big section counts. But smaller, that's the case. But you have one line. You'll be standing in front of one designer. I have 8 that I'm hand-holding. We talk every week. You turn in the stuff there. They know that class. And so that's also a good time to clean up pain points, to really get them good. And we want to get them good. We want to make sure you guys are in a place that it's not a problem for you, and we want it scalable, right? We need to make sure that if a brand new teacher came into this class, they could run it without having, to any more than just normal learning assistant kind of questions. Do we have more questions there? This next one, and your question was, does this need to go in my class? This one I think is more personal preference. This is a student study plan, and it's just one bigger step out. It is put everything together, all the ideas together. I'm taking 4 classes, and I'm in the women's presidency, and my kids are in dance, and I have a life, which is what happens most of the time with our students. This is right here. There's a template, and they go through and they put all that stuff together. And sometimes it's kind of that, I don't know what else you call them, coming to Jesus moments. So we call them in the mission field. Sometimes people don't like that here. Anyway, but that moment of just like, oh boy, actually I can only fit maybe 2 classes in. Those 5 classes I signed up for, that's not going to work. That's not going to be real. And then you can use it, you could have it as a required assignment if you worked with your course lead, if you guys felt like, yeah, especially for our class, that's a really important thing. You could have it as a bonus, you could have it just as something that they do. This is, like I say, probably a little more optional, but it's a really nice big overview because we're finding that this skill, it doesn't come with students, right? We all knew that. It's new.
So could that be used for instructors as well to have a plan?
Absolutely, right? I think it's a huge skill, and that time management is absolutely. And it changes every semester, right? Or it might change midstream for us. We had somebody get sick. We had, we made this dance team we weren't expecting, and now I have to drive to twice as many practices. This will be in instruction notes. And this I am really excited about, and I think just talking to people, most folks are very excited about this. I've talked to several instructors that are getting dinged by TGLs because their class has a little bit different setup. Okay, right? There's a discussion board that you weren't really meant to spend all your time in, or there was a discussion board you were meant to spend all your time in, right? But there's always feedback built into classes. There's always instructor interaction, but it might not look the same from class to class. So we've built this, and this, again, is something, if you're working in a pilot, chat with them, get this in there. It's a section in the instructor notes to go in and say, okay, where should instructor time be sent? What should those announcements be? There's sometimes very specific needs for an announcement in your class, right? Now, we don't have instructor notes, but those instructor notes used to set up an activity, right? So it was really important they got in there. You need a specific instructor note or a discussion board that's really just a place to exchange papers, right? And your TGL is going, you didn't say anything to any of these students in this discussion board. Well, right, because they were just giving each other their papers. I wasn't supposed to be in there. There's nothing to comment on, okay? So those kind of setups can be put in here. What do we expect? I just expect this quiz to just be auto-graded. There shouldn't be, it's just kind of right or wrong. But I expect, important feedback on this paper. This TGL is where you're going to find it. And by the way, it might not be in week 8 when you're in there. It might be in week 7. So look in week 7, right? And it's to help the TGLs find what they're looking for, right? This is where you're going to find those things, and to help the instructors not feel like, are you kidding me? I spent last week giving amazing feedback, hours I spent doing this, and yet I'm getting dinged this week because they're not seeing it. Or sometimes it's happening in a totally outside forum.
I'm a TGL. Is this something that I will be able to write in the instructors, the little instructor box up here at the top? Or is this something that I will email?
So this will live in those general lesson notes in the class. So it'll be a place for the instructors to go in and say, here's the expectations, and for the TGLs to go in and say, here's the expectation. This is, in this class, I don't teach this class, so I wouldn't know that, hey, that discussion board really doesn't need, any interaction. And it was interesting because when I made the phone call to talk to the instruction team about this change, they said, oh, I've never heard of a discussion board that they're not supposed to be in. And I went, I know about 1/3 of the portfolio off the top of my head has that
Counting
type of.
classes are very strong with
Yes,
just group discussions, and I have some of those in my group.
yes.
Do I assume that my course lead will have incorporated all the changes?
Don't assume that.
Don't
Here's the
assume
thing.
that?
First of all, course lead.
I mean, the course designer. I'm communicating with the course designer. Do I assume he gets all the changes in for this next semester?
I don't know. Here's why I wouldn't assume that. Not because they're incompetent or not trying to get those changes in, but these came late in the game, right? We're almost at the end of the semester.
And I'm talking about assessments and quizzes.
Oh,
and,
yes.
because we've had changes continuously every week.
Yes, that you can assume. Hey, that did get done to the reference and that will be perpetuated. The stuff I'm showing you here today, this was a late in the game. We've been finding these pain points and working to solve them. And this was one of them. If you went to Shark Tank, this is a big.
So can TGL see everything that's in the course for people in their group? Because I've had TGLs that can't see any feedback that I'm putting in the grade book.
Okay, so this is
Maybe they're not trained, but they don't know how to do it. So
no,
I got like a 0 on all feedback.
This is the #1 issue, right? I'm giving feedback, and by the way, I'm giving great feedback because I'm me, and of course I do. And so I am in the quiz, right? So here's a very real scenario, and it's absolutely happened. So in the I Learned Too, quizzes work beautifully, and we put almost everything in quizzes, right? Even kind of just anything shy of a paper, we put it in a quiz. Okay, you could give feedback, it worked really well. Well, now that's not true. Long answer questions, I don't know if you guys have experienced yet, and if you haven't, listen carefully. Long answer or even short answer questions that were instructor graded go into the 0. If the rest of the questions in that quiz are auto graded, it will give them 0s on those. It's hey, that's 10 points, that's 15 points. They get an F. Okay, and it happened to my daughter as a student. She's like, are you kidding me? I said like, oh, she's doing the little student blow up that you guys all got the emails about. And I loved her instructor's response to it. He said, well, there's this new game in I Learned 3 and it's called Freak Out the Freshman. So you get an F every time you turn something in, right? Yay! Okay, so we needed to rethink those things. If it's a long answer, Dropbox, which will be called assignments, by the way, in the fall, works beautifully. You can pull it up on your iPad, your tablet, you can write on it. You can leave audio feedback. It saves everything as a PDF and attaches it with no extra, just do it button, and it works, okay? And it's right there. There's beautiful personalized feedback. In a fraction of the time, you're not having to download it, by the way, it just opens. You can read right there, no downloading. It's just beautiful. It works wonderfully, and the feedback pushes for Dropboxes everywhere. Everyone can see it. Your TGL can see it. Your students can see it. They can see it on both their grade screen and their user feedback screen. But let me go back to if that was a quiz, which it was originally, right? So when it got transitioned, most of the time it stayed a quiz. So you went into that question. If you learned how to grade by question, then that was your first salvation, right? Just to get to that one question and not have to page down to find it. So you got there and you left good feedback. I mean, you spent half an hour writing all the, by the way, could you just take English class before you sign up for this, right? And then you say that feedback, they get the grade, and they go in the grade book, and they can't see it. And then they go to user progress, which makes no sense, right? So students, user progress, doesn't that mean I turned it in, I'm done? Progress, done, it's a bar. Why is, right? So if they know to go to user progress, then they open up the quiz, and it's still not there. They have to drill down into the question for that quiz to see their feedback. Okay, so here, this is what we're seeing. Some of it is just simply design. We can help you a lot. But some of it is that TGL is just not going to see that amazing feedback that you left. And it's not the TGL's fault, and it's not your fault, but it could be a design fault, or it could be, hey, sometimes it just happens outside. If you're in accounting, there's a lot of stuff that happens outside the class, the LMS system. And they need to know that, hey, this is where we have that discussion, or we're using Perusall, and we've been in there and they've been having stuff and they're talking, but you can't see it. This is how you can see it. The other thing this does for us is it makes sure that that a TGL can see it, right? If we're expecting them to be in there, then we can give instructors a little more information. Hey, make sure this is where you leave your feedback in the right box so everybody can see it.
I think one thing that would be helpful to add to that on this whole feedback thing, some of us just came from Micah Murdoch's presentation about feedback. And if you go into the help guides, and if you don't know where to find the help guides,
we're going to talk about them. Yep.
If you searched under feedback, and then there's like some tables in there that Micah has created that shows, okay, if you leave feedback here, this is where students find it, and it's really, really clearly lined out. So use that as your guide, and then maybe send an email to your students. This is where you're going to find the feedback, and maybe copy your TGL.
Yeah, and copy your TGL
so they know where to look.
Right, because they're not just in one kind of class. It's not going to be really inherently obvious, and they might not even be in all of the sections of that class. So sending that information, communication is really key. Another sticking point we have, students are missing announcements in the iLearn 2. They are missing, frankly, class content, and they're completing activities with no background. They're clicking into the discussion and they're just talking. Hey, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, not much. What'd you do? What are you doing in here? That's not what's supposed to be going on. Well, why is that happening? Right now, these are the two kind of front doors. This is that overall front door. Is it really inherently obvious to you how to get into your class? No, it's not, right? Some of this we discovered at grassroots level when I signed up to take a class. And I went, are you kidding? No wonder students can't get it. And then once they clicked into the class, if they found the magical correct link over here, and didn't just go over here and say, well, this is what I'm trying to turn in, and just click on it and go right to that assignment, right? If they did get into the class, now do you know where to click? No, we're supposed to click on content. What does that mean? Okay, even in this circle right here, if I pulled you and said, what does content mean? We'd have like 3 different definitions, right? Because a course lead version of content and your version of content and the student version of content are all different. So again, the most intuitive thing to do is to click in on this. Click on the calendar and go right in. Now, here's the issue. So I went right to the assignment. Here's the quiz, and I click that blue link, and I can take the quiz. I don't know what it's over. I have no context for it. I didn't have to read the chapter to get here or even get into the lesson notice. Okay, the same thing here. Now this one at least says, hey, you need the PDF version of this. Oh, maybe I need that. That's a little bit more intuitive. Maybe I need to go figure out what that is, but I still don't know where to get to it, right? Because my link is still called content. One easy fix we found is just to put instructions for, oh, here's your link. You can at least get back into the instructions, right? That helps a lot. And then this is what we're working on. This would be on their front page. Does this make a little more sense to this screen? By the way, you're enrolled in these classes, good information, okay? And it's a lot more visually appealing, right? So this, in that very front door, just you've logged into iLearn 3, here it is, here's your classes. They are working so that with one click, you can see your grade in that class, and then with 2 clicks, you'd open the class. That's not quite here yet, so I don't know that that will be here in the fall, but that is something they're working on. And even, get ready for it, even if you haven't released your grades, they can see the grade in the class. Yay. Yeah.
Just to make something clear here, I use an output in that page with the visual and written
Yes.
also, so they need to click on content to see that.
They need to click on the link to their class, not to the on the calendar. When you click on the calendar, it bypasses it, takes it right to that last page I showed you.
So click on the link to the class or like that, okay.
Yeah. So in this, let me answer that. In this view, they would click up here on their drop-down menu and find it, or hopefully it's in their last accessed. So it would be in this menagerie over here. That's where right now they would, and that's why we're working on this new front door. So that this, when they clicked on this, they would go to the class. And now they're gonna see your announcements. Then once they're in the class, your announcements are right here, big, bold, and beautiful. And then this is what they would see. This makes sense, right? Oh, okay, we're in week 2 or whatever, right? Lesson 2, so I would click on that, and then they would get the content that we're thinking that they're going into, but it doesn't make any sense to go into it. There's no way. Yeah.
So you're hoping this will be up by fall?
Yes.
Okay, and then, so that will be a permanent bar on this, that kind of like
Yeah.
I Learn Too, where they
Yes.
have that instruction bar.
Yeah, so this would be on their very front page when they log into
Right,
I Learn
and then
3
once
overall.
they're in,
And then once they're in the class, this
that's
would
on one
be
side.
there. Yeah, and then we're moving the calendar down. Not taking it away, but we want to make sure that they're getting them.
That was my question, are we getting rid of the calendar on the front page?
You know, and the thing is, if we can, they don't have a do soon list, and it doesn't scale and blah, blah, blah. So really, we want the calendar. What we need is we need a usable calendar, right? But we need a good way to get into the class. So we're just.
Or put it on the page with the content, so they can click over there, but they can go to content first.
Yeah, so we want to get them into content first, and so, yeah, go ahead.
Is there any talks of reading the announcements how we used to do them and then putting our notes back into each lesson?
There actually are ways to put notes at the top of a lesson.
Like a new folder in there?
No, at the very top of each lesson, each submodule, there's like a header. And here's one of the nice things about the parent-child relationship. You're not going to break it when you do things in your class. So you could go into the header for that module for that week, right? So lesson 3, you can go into the header and put some stuff there. Hey, this is really important, and it'll be the first thing they see right above that content, much like the instructor.
So do they want us to do that? Because I was told when I was developing my course. They did not want
Basically,
that.
your TGLs are going to look for your regular announcements in their regular spot. That is going to be an additional thing that you're not going to get TGL points for if you put them in the header, but it is a good way for for just key information.
If your comments were lengthy, then they wouldn't see the pages.
Yeah, that's true. If you have something really big, if you put it up there, you won't be able to. They won't see the content.
So between like.
If you got nothing else out of this whole conference, I want you right here. These are help guides, okay? And these help guides are beautiful. This is, and so I would recommend highly writing down this URL and bookmarking it. It's huge. It will help you get through boot camp, but it will help you get through every single day in your class. You can send it to students. If you click on this, okay, and you said, okay, I don't know why it's so hard for you to submit an assignment, right? You can click on that, you can send them the URL, and when it changes, when there's an update, that URL will send them to the correct information, the updated information. So that URL won't send them to old information. We don't have old tutorials floating around. This, I have to say, has been a lifesaver on every level. We have everyone from instructors in it to designers in it to course fix. They're all looking at this, and it has been, and especially as an OCR, this is a really important website because you can go in, and if you search it, okay, so let's say you search something in the search bar, and it doesn't pull up because you just kind of use different wording or whatever, then you can just say, well, I know it's about a quiz, so you can just get in quizzes, and it will be there. Also, there's comments, there's a comment spot on this. At the end of each article, very, very intuitive, step by step. At the end of each article, there's a place to comment. Now, these go privately to the curator of this, and just say, hey, I searched it this way and it didn't come up. Could we tag it with these words, right? That are just kind of maybe more words that aren't. You just kind of get into this speak, right? and we have a word that we're using, but really that's not what students call it, so it's not what you call it. Send that in. And by the way, if this didn't quite hit what you wanted, you needed a tutorial about something else, send that in. They are building these, and they're easy to build because they can pull it out one picture and replace one picture. It saves, it's so much faster to build. But I would say, make sure you've got this. Does anybody